If you thought that Doflamingo creating clones from his string was really overpowered, wait until you see what Cracker is capable of in this week's chapter of One Piece. It looks like Luffy's battle with Cracker is not going to end after one Kong punch, and you know what? I think that is really refreshing. I'm glad that they didn't just introduce this character just to have him get killed in one big attack. In fact, I don't even really think he has gotten started because Cracker's abilities are insane. In fact, the Cracker that we've seen for the last couple of chapters isn't even the real Cracker at all. Originally, I believed that his Devil Fruit ability would revolve around the fact that he can just create multiple limbs from his very own body, and in many senses he is still doing that, but his name Cracker actually has a lot more meaning to it. You see, Cracker ate the Biscuit fruit, which allows him to create biscuits and crackers and manipulate them in a number of different ways. One of the ways he can use them is that he can actually create armor, and supposedly, for the last couple of chapters, Luffy has simply just been fighting against the armored form of Cracker, and you get to see that after getting hit with that big Kong punch, his entire armor just gets completely wrecked and destroyed, and we see the true form of Cracker underneath, which looks completely different from his armored form. He's practically a completely separate character. Now, just the fact that he can use his Biscuit abilities to sort of create this armor is pretty crazy all around. You know, that alone is a pretty cool ability, but he is actually able to create armored clones, multiple ones, to fight against Luffy. That's right, he can create upwards of like 5 or more clones, maybe even 10, maybe even hundreds, to go up against his opponents. And I gotta give Luffy some credit, too. Apparently, according to Cracker, this is the only time that his true form has ever been revealed to an opponent. Even on his wanted poster, it just shows his armored form. And even when Cracker doesn't have his armor, he's incredibly devastating and powerful. There's a scene where Luffy tries to punch him with another Kong gun, and then he just manages to dodge the attack, and actually cuts right through the Gear 4th arm, which really hurts Luffy quite a bit. Then he starts to create all of these armored clones, which look like his original armored body, and then Luffy tries to attack with a Kong organ attack, which is basically a Gatling version of Gear 4th, and it looks really awesome, and it's destroying them all, but the fact that he can just sort of keep creating all of these from his Cracker and Biscuit abilities is insane. This is a really cool fight so far in the series, and is going to be a benchmark, I think, for the rest of this arc right here. While that's not the only thing going on in this chapter, there's a great scene of Nami, who is just completely freaking out the seducing woods. It's a really funny scene. And then, of course, you also have Pedro and Brook, who are managing to actually sneak around inside of a Biscuit soldier as they make their way to the castle. And then the chapter comes to a big conclusion when the Vinsmokes family has finally arrived, and we're formally introduced to the 2 older brothers of Sanji in this chapter. We've already seen them before, but we get to see more of them right here, and both of them have some interesting names, and it made me realize the pun on the 3 older brothers. We have Ichiji, we have Niji, and we have Sanji. That's Ichi, Ni, San. 1, 2, 3 in Japanese. That's a really funny reference right there. And both Ichiji and Niji also have specific titles going along with them, Electric Blue and Sparking Red, so they're going to have some really crazy abilities. They're definitely the big badasses of the Vinsmoke family. I loved this chapter. So what's the rundown on this week's chapter of One Piece? Cracker having another form was a really big surprise. I didn't expect anything like that. I thought he was just going to be another super goofy, disproportionate, massively powerful character, but the fact that he was able to use his Devil Fruit abilities to create an armor like that is insane. There was no way that anybody could have guessed that something like that was going to go down. And the fact that his inner form looks just as intimidating as his armor form, I think is really important. When I realized that he was going to have a separate form while reading this week's manga, I was like, oh god, he's going to look really goofy and stupid. And while he certainly still has that like weird One Piece look to him, he still manages to be very intimidating, especially when he manages to cut through Luffy's arm, which is a really shocking moment in this chapter. That being said, All of the action scenes in this chapter looked really great. Lots of fluidity to it, lots of impact from all of it. It gives me a lot of high hopes that the anime version is going to be able to do this one justice right here. I can't wait to see more of what's going to happen in this battle because Luffy is struggling right now, even more so in many ways than he was against Doflamingo. I mean, of course his battle with Doflamingo went on a lot longer, but the fact that, you know, he's having to sort of go all out with Gear 4th and he's still having trouble against this guy says a lot. And the fact that Doflamingo didn't create as many clones as Cracker. Cracker is able to use his Devil Fruit ability to create practically an entire personal army for him, which all have super-powered abilities and weapons. Not to mention really funny-sounding attacks like Honey Pretzel. So even though Cracker got jacked in this week's chapter, he is still on the attack, and the battle between him and Luffy is going to continue, and I cannot wait to see it go on in the next chapter of the series, which unfortunately is going to be on break, but still, that's just the way it is. That's the way the Cracker crumbles. So, I'm going to give this chapter right here a 5 out of 5. I'm an action junkie, so I got a lot of enjoyment out of this one right here. The battle between Luffy and Cracker so far is probably my favorite part of this entire arc thus far. It's been really surprising. Like I said, I don't think anybody could have predicted that there was going to be another form of Cracker and that he was actually just fighting his armor the entire time. I still love the imagery of this arc. The look of the seducing woods is just such a unique backdrop. And of course, the big tease at the end with the Vinsmokes family finally arriving. And of course, there's Ichiji and Niji. That's right, Ichi-ni-san! Get excited, guys. It's going to be a good time to be a One Piece fan. So that's my thoughts on this week's chapter of One Piece. But if any of you did read this one, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Were you really shocked by the fact that Cracker is actually just using armor this entire time and that wasn't his actual appearance? What do you think of his true form? How is the battle between him and Luffy going to conclude? And what do you want to see from the rest of the Big Mom arc? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you all so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. One of the best ways to support Super Kami Guru 9000 is to simply continue to watch our videos, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even hit that like button. That's right, it's so easy to do and it'll only take you a split second. You guys can also check us out on social media. Look for all of that stuff in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!